exit at a higher velocity and intensity along his property is displaced by the new septic system, and that will erode his property. And the town engineer says, for that concern to be valid, the tide would have to recede very quickly and the exit would have to be very narrow. After a tidal inundation, which is typically driven by wind and tide, the water typically falls slowly and evenly over the area. It is highly unlikely that such a scenario can develop on the new Suffolk Waterfront. That the filled area around the building and septic system represents a proportionally small area of the waterfront.
Barbara, can I speak to that? I'm sorry, Phil Laurie isn't here, but I know what that letter said, and that's a mistaken interpretation.
What's this?
Well, you know, can I just say one thing?
So,
I'm not an engineer, so I'm not a good person to answer this.
And
And
the
the
question
town engineer will be answering this. As part of our review process, the town engineers look at this question. It's not particular to our neighborhood.
it's a misinterpretation of his letter. He's here, let him explain the letter.
I think there was that thing, Tom, we all know the water's 60 so level, so the tide comes in, it's going to come in around the area. We don't realize that. However, when the tide drops off, that when it tries to leave the property, it's going to exit between the new bulkhead and my property. It will erode. As the tide goes out, it will come out pretty quickly. And it will do damage. I feel it will do damage to my property and my building on the end. But it will also, you know, when you go down into Suffolk and the tide's going out, you look down First Street, you can see the water is falling in. It's going right over the town beach.
I think that's a legitimate question, and I also think that it's one that can be addressed in the engineering design plan to take that into account, to make sure that it doesn't seriously compromise the person's property.
But it hasn't been addressed yet.
Excuse me?
I think it hasn't been addressed.
Well,
We're talking about that.
we are subject at this point to the town's review process. This is why he said this is just the beginning of the process. There are work sessions that are going to happen. All the town departments give their input to the planning board, and the planning board makes their decision based on input from various agencies. So these agencies will weigh in. It's silly for us to sit here and answer questions that we
So
don't
I
know
think
about.
that the town should, I don't see how the town can give their approval on this project if they haven't got the answers to all the questions.
Barbara, Barbara,
I think we should move on.
I understand.
I don't really have answers. I'm
you
afraid.
create a big puddle down there.
I think we should move on because there are people here.
I understand there's a puddle in front of your house.
There is a letter from Jamie Richter, the town engineer, to the planning board from May 27th, which says drainage designs proposed for the buildings are not satisfactory.
Yes, no, but that's a different issue. That's not
That
a
is
flood
this
issue.
issue, correct.
It's all the rainwater that comes off the roofs of our buildings has to be guttered, it has to be taken into cisterns, and they said that our plans were, we used shallower wells than we were supposed to, and we're gonna modify it. That's the correction we have to make. It's not about flood water, that's about drain water. I think we should move on.
Can I just ask one question about displacement, which your response has been about increasing flooding? But that's not been, as far as, some people may have raised that as a question. My question was about displacement, which is different than increasing flooding. When water can't go here, it goes here, you just said that. And I think that's part of the concern. Disregarding the bulkhead, which is a federal plea, one of the questions about the site plan, and I think it would be very helpful if you could go down to the site and put some poles in and show this is where, you know, the ground level will be once raised. And this is it relative to the water table. This is where the septic will be.
We will do that. We will do that. We haven't had time this week.
It's incredibly important because this is an abstract concept. Regardless, when you're done with your structure, with the walls, retaining walls to your septic, what you're doing aside from flooding is creating displacement of the water. If it can't go here, it's going to go here. I'm not putting a wall in front of my property for when the water comes up from my street because it's going to go on my neighbor's property and come around.
Well,
And more will go on my neighbor's property if I put it there. That's the question. It's a question of displacement of the water that would otherwise flood the new Suffolk property?
Let me respond to that.
Where is it going?
Let me respond to that. The key point I'm trying to make is that despite what you're calling displacement, which is the elevated portion, it will not result in even 1 millimeter higher flooding in New Suffolk. That's-
Tom, that's true if there's no wind. When you have 100-mile-an-hour wind, it affects the water in downtown New Suffolk. I was in New Suffolk during Hurricane
When you have
Gloria and Hurricane Sandy, and I was there when the water came in, I was there when the water went out, and 100-mile-an-hour wind certainly affects the residences there that are,
Yes, the wind absolutely
floodplain.
does, and this elevated portion will actually provide help and attenuate.
Doesn't stop the wind.
that comes in. So-
the road has still got a 4-foot
Can we
elevation.
stop the wind, Court? Can we stop? the
No, we
wind?
can't, but you take it into consideration.
The engineers will have to weigh in, because they're the experts, not us, nobody in this room.
I do
okay?
think that the question about water leaving the site after a flood is a legitimate question. I also think that engineers can design systems within the parameters of this site plan that would help deal with it, that would deal effectively with it, and not create an impossible situation.
Yeah, but when the drains are full and the water sits on Front Street, who comes in is responsible for pumping it out?
The same agency that has come in.
The town.
Yes.
At the mercy of the town.
Not the mercy, we have the benefit of a responsible municipality that does not only for New Suffolk.
Plus the
it does
water's not
throughout
gonna
the
run out
town.
again.
Does the town wherever.
If the land is level, if the water runs out, you don't have to.
Okay, I'd like to move on, okay? I'm sure there are people who'd like to move on. We're gonna talk about the view. This is the view in 1960. This is the south piece of the property that's now owned by Robbins Animal Holding. No view. This is the north piece. Property completely crowded. There's our old post office, other buildings here. This is the aerial before the storm, which shows the lot coverage now and how much open space there is. This is exactly how much open space there will be when we finish. We're relocating the galley hoe, we're moving it back off the edge of the property. However, that is the lot coverage and that is the view. We have protected along this edge of the property 311 up here, 311 linear feet of view, protected by easements forever. We know there'll never be anything built on those pieces, on that piece of property. We also are protecting the view from our property. We'll have a panoramic view, as it always has, of Peconic Bay. And you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see it from the cafe. You'll be able to see it from the decks, but you'll also be able to see it from the big lawn that's going to be out there, from the walkway we built, from paths and benches and all kinds of things, because our nonprofit has provided community access forever to this property.
Can I ask a question right there, because you used the word cafe? And I think that that is causing a tremendous amount of confusion, and I know that's exactly where I went on the grill.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
And we've heard now snack bar with a happy little hot dog sitting there looking at the boats. We've heard a nice little cafe that will be open for breakfast and lunch. And what we have right now, which I think is the root of all of this, is that you've got now a plan for a full-service restaurant with 66% capacity with a full liquor license, no limitations on what they can do, and special events.
Okay, I would like to
Please don't
address
hide
that.
behind the definition that we provide from the planning committee, because we've all been told the same thing, that there's one definition. What do you plan to do? What is your definition?
We plan
right
to
now?
listen to you guys. This is what we, yeah. And if, one thing we do plan to do is renovate this building, okay? Our board has always wanted to renovate this building, as you'll see from the next.
Coming up is another section on just covering the galley hoe and a discussion of the galley hoe and its uses.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna address that in here. Barbara.
Hi, Martha. I hate to keep bringing this up. You talk about the panoramic views, the beautification and everything. And But as it stands, you've got this wheat field in that access area. We have volunteers, happy to go and clean it up. And now it's getting tall enough where a walker doesn't even have that view of the water as it is. Plus, and nobody's addressed this, all this stuff you have hanging, those signs, there is a sign board in Southwold Town. And the more stuff you put up there, the more trashy it looks. You know, a nice gray building that sits there now is very scenic, it's very country-like, but with all that stuff that's hanging on it, it looks very trashy. What I'm concerned about the bushes, the overgrowth of what they call wildflowers, which is nothing but weeds. It's always been mowed down, or whatever. I am willing to take volunteers and clean it up. Why can't we?
Okay, thank you. We're writing everything down, so.
I have a question.
Barbara?
I have a question.
I have a question.
Are you going to have a section with all the cars? Because the Economist Train is going to put a parking lot, so we have cars actually in the next phase done. We have cars actually first. Then we have the scenery, but we have the cars first. We are going to plan events like a fundraising, like the 29th of July, when you have that dancing on the beach. You know, the full night dancing on the beach on the 29th of July. That brings cars. Okay? You have the fundraiser on the 29th, right? The 29th of this month. 26. Okay, 26, but you have cars coming. It's like, it's called differently, but it's also special events, in a way. Or it's called differently. As you said in the town hall, you don't need the money from the restaurant. That means because you will have less donation, I guess. Because some people are not going to do donation forever.
Okay, I think we're going to address this further on.
But this
okay?
is a fuel, so you see all this car coming, the noise, the car, not to be a fuel. I mean,
Okay, I think we should
I
move
was
on.
asking
People are
if
not.
you are going to have a section on that, on the view, just talking about the view.
Yes.
Are you going to have a section on the car?
Parking, we're going
Parking
to talk
lots
about.
and all that, yes. You are going to.
Okay.
Barbara, I can appreciate all the work that you did, you and the committee up to this point. This is a very sensitive issue to me because I have my grandparents that were in this town long before you people knew where New Suffolk was, okay? There's a lot of people in this town who like it the way it is. They moved out here because it's quiet. You have an area you're looking at up there on the screen. This whole town is only less than a square mile. It's a small town in Southwold Township. It's a small town, New Suffolk. In my mind, I don't understand why you can't come up with a better idea financially on how to eliminate a restaurant totally out of the whole picture, and work with the people of this town who pay their taxes here. It's their community. It's not Howard Mankey's town who stood up at the
Right, it's all about.
okay? He came over here in 1938. He's now, no, let me just explain what I'm saying.
We really have questions.
I know why, I understand, like I said, the work that's involved, but how come it's off the table that you can't come up with something, other ideas other than the
Okay, I'll
restaurant?
just tell you that we have, I guess people don't remember, but we have explored many ideas over the years. We explored selling part of the property to the DEC. And they wanted to put a boat ramp with 12 boat trailer parking lots right across from Legends. And we said, no, we don't think that is good for the community. We negotiated with Old Coke to sell the south piece. They wanted to put an 80-foot long chain link fence for their boat storage, have a clubhouse, which was a very modest size. You know it well. It's at the end of the street. Can I finish? Can I finish?
I didn't hear what you said.
We did try to sell it to them, yes. We talked to them about renting first, and then we actually got into negotiations with them, but when we saw their site plan, we were concerned because although the building was very modest and it's a lovely use to have a sailing school for kids, we understood that it was going to require sanitary, it was going to have 16 parking lots, and it was going to have an 80-foot long chain link fence covered with shrubs to keep their boats safe on our waterfront. And we said, you know what? We don't think that's an appropriate use. We don't think the community would like that use. And we stopped negotiations with them because we thought it was overdeveloping the property, okay? We talked to the county. We wanted the county to buy it and make a park. The county negotiations were going very, very slowly, and our feedback from the community on the county buying it was not good, and especially along First Street. There was a lot of resistance to the county owning that property. We looked at the town. I met numerous times. I have files, letters that we wrote to Melissa Spiro, who does the open space conservation or whatever it's called, preservation. We've tried. We also looked at scenarios for private clubs there. You know, require a lot of sanitary, require a lot of parking, and they're private and not really particularly consistent with our mission, which is to provide access and open space. So over the years, we have looked at many, many scenarios that did not seem to fulfill our mission or the desires of the community. We knew people didn't want boat racks. We worked really hard on your behalf to get rid of the boat racks, and then we started exploring all these other things. So what we came up with in the end was this restaurant called so by the town zoning, restaurant use. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm glad that you actually asked that question because it reminded me of all the different things we have explored and taken off the table because they were not consistent.
Well, as president of the Civic Association, I think at this point it might be a good time, unless I missed something, to address what many people in the community are most concerned with as far as feedback from me, and that is these special events.
Right, we're going to talk about that. Don't worry, we're talking about it. Okay. Where were we? Can I just thank you for all the effort and all the time. Okay, this is a picture that was taken from Legends, looking at the property. This is the current view. We're going to shift that building behind the galley hill a little bit, but this is kind of, it gives you an idea of the open space on this property. This is what it will look like when the galley ho is built behind the barn. Except higher. Would you show that? Excuse me, except higher? No, actually the galley ho is going to sit 1 foot higher than it's sitting right now in its cribbing. It's 4.5 feet above grade right now. The grade is 4.5 feet, so that's 9. It's going to be a finished elevation 10. Whether we have sanitary or not, FEMA requires 6 foot plus 2, so it's 8 foot minimum, and then you have to build higher than that. So the minimum this building could be built to get FEMA insurance is 8.6 or 9. 9 is a safer number. We are doing 10 because our sanitary will be pretty much flush with that. There'll just be 2 steps up to the building.
The reason that this looks good is because there's no cars.
Yes.
No weeds, right?
The cars are there. Cars are the cars.
But if there's a restaurant there, there's going to be stuff.
We have cars, not our cars. Okay, we're going to talk just briefly about the easements that we put on this property so that things cannot happen that we don't want to happen.
Okay,
I was asked to point out that this is a new property, and you ask questions within the sections, probably not get to ask questions about general topics afterwards. So I remind you, that's certainly usually suggestions.
yeah, so there are also people here that I've not seen it before that I think, want to get through the presentation and see the whole thing and understand the questions that we were addressing from last time. Now, there were questions last time about the easements, so let me just define them here. We've already protected over 2 acres of the 3.2 acres property we purchased. On North Park is the New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, reserving 1.16 acres of the North Park and the beach where you have the picnic tables for Wednesday night races. That whole area is total open space for public access and use. You've got beachfront access for everybody, picnic area, and the waterfront viewing area. That everybody can walk on that, everybody can go down there and enjoy their own, take their picnic down there and enjoy themselves.
The whole of the beach?
If you stand by, you know, the Robbins Island Holdings has that level ground fence.
Yeah.
If you stand at the end of the eastern end of that fence and you look diagonally towards that piece of wood that's out there, you go at the right time, you'll see the marker in the water. And it's a fairly fat bike slice that we